Ladies and gentlemen, we have a beast in the cryptocurrency space. This is Larry Pang of Iotex, Head of Business and Development. Larry, I greatly appreciate you for coming on the show. Thank you.
Yeah, man, I'm a fan of Blockchain Monkeys. Love all the videos you put out. So excited to be here to close the week. Excited for the chat.
Sweet, man. Before we even get started, I wanted to tell you also, I appreciate your help with the wallet troubleshooting, man, because I know you're a busy dude, and it's like refreshing, you know what I mean, to get help from somebody who's actually, you know what I mean, on the team. But what the troubleshooting also made me do is made me research a little bit more about Iotex, and in my research, and I'm glad I had the troubleshooting issues in the beginning because it caused me to not make any moves. Yeah. Then I was allowed to do some more, more research on the project, and I was just like, wow. I just wanted to keep staking. So I appreciate you for doing that, man.
Of course, man. With so many networks out there, there's some peculiarities of how this wallet works versus how that wallet works. But once you pass that, then you're in the open field, right? You're in an Iotex. So I love that. Always happy to help the community.
Great. Appreciate that. So for the audience and people who don't know, what exactly is Iotex?
It's a good question. Let's start from the very beginning, right? So Iotex is at the core of what we do. We're founded in 2017 as an open source project. We are a smart contract platform, layer 1 blockchain, EVM compatible, and built from scratch. And ever since the day one, we've always had a vision of connecting blockchain and the Internet of Things, which is these billions of smart devices that are out there. Whether they're watching us in our homes, listening to us in our vehicles, helping us in our jobs to, be more productive. There is almost going to be 50 billion smart devices out there in the world by 2025 in just a few years, right? More importantly, there's going to be 80 trillion gigabytes of data that these smart devices are going to generate. Right? So the question we ask ourselves, all the way back in the day, is why is none of these devices, or why is none of this data owned by everyday people, especially because the data that these devices are collecting are pretty much derivatives of our daily lives, right? Where we've gone, what we've said, so falling into the wrong hands, falling into these centralized institutions that like Google, Apple, Facebook, they're using that information to sell us things and place things in our feeds, and depending on how you look at it, kind of manipulate you in a way, right? So we wanted to shed all that manipulation and just build devices that do what they're supposed to do and nothing more. And furthermore, give value back to the users that own these devices. So we have a saying at Iotex, it's kind of called the Internet of Trusted Things, right? We want everyday people to own and control their smart devices, as well as the data and value that their smart devices generate. And that's really a combination of blockchain and IoT. Yeah.
Not to cut you off, but that's a beautiful point, because what's great about that is, and also a realization is, people don't realize how valuable that their data is, and they also don't realize that there's value in the data that they have.
Yeah,
you guys, not only are you guys revolutionizing the IoT space, it's also bringing people to a realization that, hey, so that's value, that's my value.
Exactly. Yeah. And a lot of this is subconscious today, I don't know what driving app you use, but I use Waze.
I see them.
Yeah. Driving apps today, you kind of have Waze, and all these people are annotating the maps, adding potholes, police officers are on the corner, adding landmarks, and Waze sold for billions of dollars to Google back in the day, right? But where's the value for the people that helped create that extra experience on top of Google Maps, right? So in the future, we fully intend to have Waze-like products, except it's kind of like a DeFi liquidity pool in a way. The more you contribute, the more ownership you have of the final product. And if the final product ends up selling, you should be a shareholder in that, right? Based on how much you contributed. So
you contributed.
Very much in the spirit of blockchain. You know what I mean? It's hard to it's a little hard to move people from what's going on right now with DeFi and NFTs to the future of devices, and how devices are going to really coordinate a lot of the things we do. All these decentralized autonomous organizations, they're not going to have people in it, but they're definitely going to have devices that are grabbing data to inform the DAO, or even delivering services as part of the DAO, right? So
Right.
these kind of things are really interesting to me to think about. And we're well on our way. You know, Iotex is definitely leading the way
Yeah.
towards the future. Yeah.
It allows your mind to roam even further. Like once you grasp what's happening, it's like, oh wow, it can be used for this, it can be used for that. There's so many branches on top of that. And what I was telling a few people in my community is, once you find out what Iotex is doing, then you're going to find out what else they're doing. You know what I mean? There's
Right.
so many other pieces to it. You have the DeFi going on, then you have also the NFTs. I mean, there's just so much happening. So what I want to, my question to you is, where do you see Iotex in, say, maybe just 5 years? Where do you see that?
Yeah, you know, there are a lot of these pillars in Iotex right now. Like you mentioned, we have DeFi, we have an NFT marketplace, we have a lot of IoT stuff going on. We have, you know, a great group of validators. Blockchain's fully decentralized. So the real next path for us across these 5 years is to put it all together, right? It's kind of a concept we've coined back in 2020 called DeFi-OT, right? Decentralized finance associated with the Internet of Things, right?
Okay.
If you think about what this means, it comes in so many flavors. Like one of them that's the most direct and obvious, I think, is using data from our smart devices in order to trigger a smart contract, right? Let me give you an example for, you know, this is one of our new devices. It's called Pebble Tracker.
Stone cold proof that you can't refute.
Yeah, exactly. Proof of product, right? Proof of product for sure. And this thing has a secure element, so it signs all the data as it's being captured, so it's verifiable to anyone. Very, very important. But more importantly, it has a bunch of sensors on it, right? It has GPS, temperature, humidity, air quality, air pressure, motion, vibration, and light. Gives you a full 360 view of whatever asset or person or vehicle this thing is attached to, right?
Yeah.
And what you can do with this data is we can grab this real world phenomena, sign it, convert it into something that a smart contract can read. And then you have these kind of like physical, digital, if then statements, right? If you can prove you were at a specific place at a specific time to a smart contract, then that smart contract can kick off anything like minting an NFT that says, hey, you were at a concert or you were at a sporting event. You can settle a payment in supply chain, right? If your asset reaches a destination, instead of waiting 2 weeks to get paid, the blockchain can do that for you, or automate any kind of workflow, right? Smart contracts are very expressive, but the thing about blockchains is if you don't tell the blockchain information, it's not going to know, right? That's why all these Chainlink oracles really sparked this DeFi renaissance, right? Once we knew everyone had a single version of the truth about what the price of Bitcoin or the price of ETH was at any point, that's where the lending, the borrowing, the collateralization, the yield farms, all of that's based on the fact that everyone agrees on the price of these things, right? So if we have consensus about what's happening in the real world, then it's just an entirely new category of use cases for what blockchain can really do, right? So starting with asset trackers, we also have this device called the UCAM, doing like facial recognition, object detection, but we're not stopping here, man. Like we really want to tackle all kinds of devices, right? If you could prove to the blockchain you're being energy efficient, you can earn carbon credit tokens. If you prove that you're a safe driver through all these electronic control units in your car, you can lower your insurance rate. If you prove that you're healthy by wearing a wearable, and you can, you know, get offers from, I don't know, protein bar manufacturers that lower their healthcare insurance costs. Right?
See, that's the thing that really grabbed my attention. The proof and the trust. Like if you have a particular product going through this supply chain, you have proof that it was at this location, and I know he was at this location because the temperature was this also. Yeah. So you have all these proof, all this stone hard proof, proving like your product and whatever. I also look at this as something that's gonna give companies different grades. Like a grading system. When you have all this information and data, it shows you as being that much more of a valuable product.
Yeah, you know there's two important things I want to like piggyback on what you said, right? Really, really extremely valid points, right? Like one thing is that proof is everyone in blockchain knows about proof through proof of work, proof of stake, right? These are literally people proving to the blockchain that I've done the work and I should be in candidacy to mint the next Bitcoin block,
There you
right?
go.
Or
Yes.
I prove to the blockchain I have enough stake to participate in Ethereum consensus, right? And if you think about it, there's also this whole realm, what Iotex calls proof of anything. You can prove anything to a blockchain to generate a trusted response, right? Whether it's proof of safety in your car, proof of security by locking your doors or turning on your security system, proof of health through your wearable, proof of presence through your GPS location. All of these things are forms of proof that you can give to a blockchain. And the beauty of it is that's just the if statement part. The then statement part can be anything, right? Even things that don't make sense today is like, you proved to me that you walked 5 miles, I'm gonna give you some tokens, right? New form of airdrop, or the one really big one we're bullish on for Q4 is we're launching a game called Pebble Go, where if you prove your location to the D app, to the smart contract, then you can claim different types of NFTs or airdrops or prizes by being in a specific place at a specific time, right? So all these kind of proofs are things people are familiar with. It's just a completely different flavor. And the other thing I'll say is, like, how is this different from the real world today, right? Like, why do we need these kind of unbiased and tamper-proof devices to do the work for us? Is because we live in an era where it's hard for us to know who to trust and why to trust, right? Even people that we pay to do jobs, like, think about any supply chain transaction that has multiple suppliers, multiple distributors, multiple warehouses, multiple everything. There's some guy in the middle that they hire, right? The intermediary. And how do you know the intermediary is not taking like under the table deals or doing something? As we start to get more into this like modern machine economy, the things we can trust most are going to be tamper-proof, unbiased devices, right? That only know how to tell the truth. There's no kind of like human error proneness or manipulation that you can build into a device. And that's really where this combination of tamper-proof hardware and tamper-proof software, when you combine these, you get tamper-proof solutions, right? So I think it's going to be a really interesting future that we're headed towards, right?
Absolutely, man. And that's that part you just said is the most refreshing to me. Okay, look, I don't have to worry about the stress of possibly not trusting you. We can just trust this software over here and we can be about our day.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
It removes all the frills and stuff that we've kind of been jaded by, it's like, why do we, every time we go to a website, why do we have to, turn off our ad blocker just to protect ourselves? Or there's some analogies in modern internet culture where it's like, man, should I click this link? Should I do this? There's so many untrusted things about our daily lives. And that's really what blockchain, not just Iotex, but like blockchain is trying to solve this issue. But Iotex is trying to bring this to the real world too, not just when we're, typing or texting on our phones or playing apps, but even when we walk around every day, right? Like we go through a toll booth, like how do we know this thing's not going to charge us something wrong or they're not going to get our information right? Like having open source smart contracts with absolutely verifiably trustworthy hardware, that combination is going to provide a lot of trust without even needing to trust anyone else, right? It's just you're trusting the blockchain. So,
Absolutely. I also wanted to ask you about this. You guys are co-chairs of the ICC. Can you tell me a little bit more? I'm sorry, the IIC. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, for sure. So there's two ways to think about blockchain and IoT, right? One is how blockchain is going to impact all these traditional legacy IoT systems, right? The other is how IoT, all these smart devices, are going to impact blockchain as it is today, right? We've already talked a little bit about what IoT can do for blockchain, right? Think of it as like a real world data oracle. You're just pumping in new information the blockchain can use and trigger any number of responses, right? The other way around is also really important though, how blockchain is going to impact traditional IoT systems as we know it. And this is a much longer journey, right? I used to be a consultant before I joined Iotex. And what I realized through that is Fortune 500 companies and these big players don't make any changes until regulation demands them to. Right?
I know.
That's 100% a fact, right? Even if it's a great business proposition, they're going to wait until the last minute because I have to do it, right? There's no choice for me not to do it, right?
Especially in the United States.
Especially in the United States, yeah, right. Like when you think about gutting these legacy systems and replacing them with blockchain technology is going to take a longer time, right, than building things completely from scratch that challenge the status quo. But replacing the legacy systems with blockchain is also very, very important. And the path to doing this is standardization and working in these kind of industry consortiums, where these industry consortiums bring together all these enterprises and have them collaborate on solutions that are win-win-win situations for everyone, right? So Iotex is mostly involved in 3 big industry consortiums right now. The 4th one is coming soon. I'll explain a little bit what all of them do, right? So the IIC, the one you mentioned, is called the Industry IoT Consortium. And we're the co-chairs of the blockchain group within this Industry IoT Consortium alongside Amazon and Huawei. Really big names, right?
Yes.
This consortium was founded by Dell, GE, Huawei, Intel, and IBM, I believe. And again, it's bringing together all these enterprises, all these researchers, all these academics, and even startups like Iotex. We're not a startup anymore, but we joined right when we started. And this is the slow grind, right? You don't just win reputation with enterprises by sitting there and twiddling your thumbs. You got to write research alongside them. You got to win trust, right? And that's exactly what we've done to be elected into this kind of upper echelon of enterprise stuff. And what we're doing with this opportunity, with this position, is we're just kicking off the first blockchain test drive or test bed. With the test bed's kind of this sandbox that all these enterprises can come and play in, right? And it's based on Pebble Tracker. It's based on using this device in multiple capacities in real legacy IoT capacities, right? So this is us working alongside enterprises, rubbing shoulder to shoulder with the biggest companies in the world, and just can't be discounted, right? But this is still a long-term thing. Other ones we're a part of is IEEE. IEEE is the biggest standards organization in the world. And we're the vice chairs of the blockchain standard for usage in IoT. These kind of things are, Wi-Fi is a standard. The electrical plugs we use are a standard, right? Standards are basically things that it doesn't make sense to have so many versions of it, right? 5G connectivity, Wi-Fi, these are all things that were standardized and are used globally, right? Doesn't matter what country you're in, Wi-Fi is still the same, right? So when we think about standardizing blockchain and IoT, we're talking about bringing this to a global scale in exactly the same way. And Iotex is deep into the process alongside other players, right?
That was absolutely my next question. I saw they're not only trying to just disrupt the space, but they're also making this a standard of way of using IoT.
Yeah, exactly. And blockchains by nature are protocols in themselves. So they're standardized in a way, right? But there's many angles you can take with how these standards develop. So this is just another example of like what we're doing with the enterprise space. The other 2 that we're kind of excited for, one's called the Confidential Computing Consortium. It's kind of how you combine secure hardware and doing like privacy preserving computations. And we're working with some really, really big corporations on some cool stuff that have to do with UCAM, right? It's all about privacy preserving facial recognition, where the blockchain is the identity of the camera, but you also need to tack on other layers of technology to make it more privacy preserving when you try to compute on this data, right? And the last one we're a part of is called MOBI. It's like the automotive consortium. It's actually unannounced for now, but we've just joined MOBI to bring these devices into all vehicles, right? We're trying to run a lot of pilots to see if we place one of these Pebble trackers in a bunch of vehicles and started collecting verifiable data about all of them. How do we create new networks that these vehicles can benefit from each other, talk to city infrastructure? So
my bad.
Yes.
When you said MOBI, is that the same MOBI that the MOBI that runs with the Stellar Network?
No, it's a different one. MOBI is MOBI. It's
MOBI. Okay.
Yeah, those kind of MOBI has like the who's who of not only blockchain companies but also like BMW, Renault,
automotive. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, exactly. So they've done a lot of different pilots. It's only recently that we started to look into automotive a lot. Some surprises coming in that space as well, but nothing I could say for now. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. I don't need you to say anything. That was enough. You not saying anything is enough.
Yeah. So that's the enterprise space for us, right? Like we work with enterprises in different ways. Like We worked with an enterprise called Tenvis. They're a security camera manufacturer since 2005. We built this camera together. And for this,
I'm sorry to cut you off. I saw you have like a partnership going on with Wise. Can you tell me a little bit about that as well?
Yeah. So that's the other kind of flavor of partners we have, right? So we have device manufacturer partners and we have chip manufacturer partners, right?
Nice.
So chip manufacturers like Nordic Semiconductor, who we worked with to build the Pebble Tracker. Nordic built this chip right here, this gray silver box thing.
Okay.
And that's a secure element. It's called the NRF 9160, and it's like a cellular modem, right? WiseKey is another secure hardware manufacturer, and they focus mostly on like what's called an NFC tag, near field communication tag. Like anytime you have a key card, you buzz into a building, you're either using NFC or it's what's called RFID, radio frequency IDs.
Okay.
Right? So if you think about like key cards and access and scanning things, that's also a form of smart device. That's a piece of hardware, right? Like you can think of like an NFC tag as a physical QR code, right? If you have a QR code, I can grab that, I can put it on the internet, anyone can scan it, right? That's why everyone's using it for menus, right? Because they don't really care if this is scanned multiple times, right? But if you have an NFC tag that says, hey, I'm going to scan this tag when it goes from point A to point B. When it reaches point B, I'm going to scan that tag. And that means that this one of one QR code was scanned, meaning it reached point B, right? So all of these things are kind of tools and different devices, right? Like you think about what a device is today, like they're all the same on the inside. It has some batteries, some connectivity, storage, memory, compute, and it has sensors that really differentiate what it's supposed to do, right? A camera is just a very advanced light sensor. You have a temperature sensor, moisture sensor, alcohol sensor, vibration sensor. All of these things are, so embedded in the devices we use every day, but breaking it down a little bit, the anatomy of all these IoT devices is very similar, right? So we think about IoT and blockchain as a horizontal. So many different verticals you can apply to: agriculture, healthcare, supply chain, smart city, aviation, satellites, everything, right? Everything's going to have everything. So everything's going to have devices, and all those devices need trust. So that's why Iotex's mission is so important for sure.
Absolutely. And like also when I was looking into Iotex, I saw this as like the governments would absolutely want to use something like this, even on a political spectrum, when they're trying to keep their information private.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
We have a pretty cool use case, not built by us, but they're using our platform to build it. Shout out to Consensus Networks, who's one of our very OG delegates in the space. They've been with us since like 2019, and they just signed.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they just signed a $1.5 million contract with the U.S. Navy to build like a medical supply chain solution using Pebble Tracker and Iotex smart contracts. It's pretty crazy. You know, we haven't blown up this news because we're waiting for the pilot to be out, right? But we work with Pebble Tracker and Consensus Networks, and people ask us a lot about enterprise, right? And like why enterprise adoption is not happening. Honestly, it's really hard to sell trust these days. Who's paying for the trust? Everyone wants trust, but who's paying for it, right?
Right.
Talking about like hypersensitive information or military grade application.
Right.
You can't sacrifice trust at all. We're still playing the game of like, sticking their neck out a little bit and hoping they don't get hit, right?
Yeah.
But, once the hackers kind of make it so like obvious that you can't play these games anymore, everyone's going to start buying trust, right? But for now, we have to look for just like blockchain is looking for the early adopters in the consumer space. You got to find the early adopters in the enterprise space. And those are the people that need absolute security, absolute trust. And that's why US Navy's, considering this medical supply chain solution built with tamper-proof hardware and tamper-proof software and Iotex technology. So
absolutely, man. Yeah. Absolutely. When you just said that there, I just had this picture of a snowball of, you see these hacks happening here. You see in the news articles of these hacks. They just keep happening, right? And then they keep snowballing, and you keep seeing them more and more.
Yeah.
So as they grow more and more and more, the for you to want your trust hidden. For you to want more trust,
Yeah.
you're going to be more likely to jump on something like this because it's like, okay, it's happening a lot.
Yeah.
Let me eliminate at least that trouble of trust. You know what
Yes.
I mean?
Exactly. I think the snowball effect is exactly the right way to describe it, right? Like
Yeah.
changing human behavior is probably the hardest thing to do, right? Like there's a common saying in Silicon Valley, like if you want to replace an incumbent with an alternative, the alternative has to be 10 times better than the
Yeah.
alternative for people to really adopt.
Before you go on, you
Yeah.
make a valid point because it's like when people are sick or people are obese, because I'm a personal trainer for over 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to train someone, they always come to you when they're at their worst and they can't take it anymore.
Tipping points, right? Yeah.
Yeah, tipping point. It's like, can you nip it in the bud earlier so you don't have to go through this pain?
Yeah.
You know what I
That's
mean?
human nature, though. You know, we're very
It is.
reactive people.
I know.
Everyone's reactive, right? And
Right.
it goes in the way that, you know, this is another interesting topic to talk about is like how people are addressing data security and privacy today, right? They're addressing it with regulation. And by nature, regulation is reactive because something has to happen. And then you apply the regulation
I
to
know.
that, right? All GDPR and CCPA and all these privacy regulations are doing for us today is providing a means for us to seek financial remediation if something bad happens to us, right? Someone breaches
Right.
our, we can be like, hey, that's not right. You owe me money, right? But it's not solving the actual problem of them breaching our privacy in the first place, right?
Right.
Really popular philosophy by Anne Kavukian. She's I think the privacy director of like Ontario or something. She has a framework called privacy by design, which is basically using technology to ensure privacy proactively, not reactively, right? And
Okay.
blockchain and IoT, and this is baked into the ethos of what Iotex does.
Wow.
Ownership means privacy, right? If you're the only owner of something, that's private to you, right? So
Right.
when we build cameras in technology like UCam, like this camera is a camera that only the user is able to view their videos. And it happens because similarly to any blockchain wallet you log into, you log in with your private key that only you have. And
Right.
then the system takes your private key and end-to-end encrypts all of your information. So without your private key, you can't decrypt the videos at all. So it's the first privacy camera that utilizes the blockchain-based identity for a real purpose, I think. So
Wow.
yeah, I could talk about this
That's
stuff.
real. That's real world use right there.
Mhm.
One last question is I had listened to I believe it was Rowling. Is that the name of the CEO?
Rowling, yeah.
Rowling. Um, you guys started Iotex in 2017, right? What
Wrote the white
led?
paper in 2017 and raised a private sale. We didn't do an ICO, only private
Okay.
sale. January 2018. Yeah.
What led? What led him in the beginning to actually doing Iotex? What, like, you know what I mean? What brought that thought about?
Yeah. So
How that beginning?
I'm not a co-founder, but I'm a very, very early founding team member, if you want to call it. But I think
Right.
the co-founder story is very interesting. It really resembles like why Iotex One is successful and like why we've put together a solid team.
Yeah.
Umbrella, right? So there's three co-founders. One is Rowland, one is named Kevin, and the other name is Jing. So Rowland, Jing's son, exactly. So
Yes.
all of them come from quite different backgrounds, right? Rowland is the PhD in cryptography, and he worked at Oracle, Google, and most recently at Uber, leading cryptography R&D. So Rowland's the guy that really knows how to build large-scale systems with high security, right? He did it at Google. He did it at Uber. Every time you log into these Uber apps, it's really his cryptography assurances that make that sign-in process very secure, right?
Jeez.
So that's really like the blockchain and the systems architect point of view, right? That's why the blockchain that we have has never gone down since April 2019. Very rare for us, right? Yes. Yeah. The next guy, Kevin Guo, he was a really, really early employee at Facebook. I think
Yeah.
2009 or 2010, and built products for Facebook for like 8 or 9 years. And that level of quality of like the products that Facebook puts out, both like web and mobile, That's why our apps are a pleasure to use, right? And our ability to launch products and wallets and explorers, that's really Kevin's expertise, is build awesome products and iterate on them to even make them better over time, right?
Right.
And the last piece, Jing, she comes from a venture capital background. She was managing partner at Sparkling Capital, doing a lot of early stage investments in AI, cybersecurity, IoT, and blockchain. And she brings that investing startup, like what it takes for a startup to be successful, kind of up to it, right? So the last person I would mention is Xinxin. He's considered him to be a co-founder, right? He's our head of cryptography, head of research, and he brings that. He has like dozens and dozens of journals and patents under his name, and he brings that academic rigor, that theoretical to practical, right? So you combine all these four co-founders and build the pyramid of teams under them.
Yeah.
You see why Iotex is making the impossible possible, right? A lot of people have tried this IoT blockchain stuff.
Right.
I think, the strength of our team and the focus that we have, the commitment to the mission is like why we're able to put out these first products, and why everyone listening should really believe in what we do, because, we're here for real, right?
Absolutely, man. And then, also, I see you guys are also integrated with a few blockchains. You got the Ethereum EBM, the Binance Smart Chains. Any others coming along being integrated as well?
Yeah. So this goes to kind of like where Iotex is heading in the future too, right? Like we really embrace the multi-chain future. We think that every blockchain is going to have a purpose, and if it doesn't have a purpose, then there's no use for it, right? But the blockchains out there with real utility that brings something new or something valuable to the table, people are going to want to bridge to that blockchain naturally, right? So right now we've built cross-chain bridges to Polygon, Ethereum, and Binance Smart Chain. We're working on Heco, which is Huobi EcoChain, and looking at Arbitrum next. We would love to do Cosmos and Polkadot and Avalanche and all these other great chains out there. But if you take a scan of all the chains I just mentioned, right, I would say they're all general purpose and DeFi chains, right? In the future, when we start to launch our own DeFi OT and like IoT native applications on Iotex, and whenever those chains start to realize, hey, the data and the devices in Iotex are helpful to what I'm doing on my chain, right? Whether they want to settle a prediction market using some of our data, whether they want to use Iotex blockchain as an oracle for their blockchain, these cross-chain data transfers, they're going to bridge to us because we're going to be the de facto hub of IoT data for the entire blockchain space. They're
going to want that information, even if they can't get it on their chain. If it's going to make their chain more valuable, they're going to want that information too, right?
Exactly. So what we do is not their specialty, right? We have a layer one blockchain that can do most of the things those other projects can do, but those projects have stuff that we can't do either, right? So if you think about this like bridging ecosystem, it's going to be a lot of like lending and borrowing, right? Like tit for tat, win-win situations. We can all share, and we can process transactions together. So we embrace that, man. We really do. We're focusing 100% on Iotex right now, and because we have a lot of work to do still. To make the machine economy universal standard for all devices possible. But down the road, we really see Iotex as being the hub for IoT data, because not many projects can do what we do. And I would say nobody's doing what we're doing right now, especially. So
absolutely, man. Well, I greatly appreciate you coming on the show, man. We'll have to have you back on another time.
100%, man.
Where can people reach you and get more information for Iotex? Even a place where they can get like maybe put their email in and get the like newsletter so they can get stay up to date.
Yeah, definitely. All the information you need is at iotex.io, iotex.io. You can find our Telegram link there, our Discord link, Reddit, Twitter. We're everywhere. If you want to reach out to me personally, you can find me on Telegram. The handle is @Larry_Iotex. And I'm available. Anyone that wants to chat, just don't ask me for airdrops or, when moon. But if you have any real questions, I'm always happy. I can't tell you how many. I think my One thing I learned over the past couple of weeks is Telegram has a limit. Like I'm at 999 right now. My inbox is just completely full. I can't get through all of these. So a lot of those are, if you've reached out to me in the past few weeks, I'm sorry, I'll get to you. But a lot of things are like, hey, blah, 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 all the crypto stuff that drives me crazy sometimes. But,
I know. I use Twitter. I use Telegram sparingly. Yeah. I'm in and out.
In and out, exactly. Yeah. No, man, really thanks for having me on. We'll have to do it again sometime for sure.
Absolutely, man. Thanks again for having me on, and I'll see you soon.
Absolutely, man.
Sweet.
Cause it's the standard in this bitch. XRP. I went to YouTube University, and now they mocking me with no degree. We saying by the swift, keep it walking. Respect your elders in these bushes. Bitcoin is talking.